Why was today's SpaceX launch such a big deal? In order to understand why today's launch was such a big deal and how it has essentially changed space travel forever, we do need to discuss how space travel takes place at a very basic level, and then show how SpaceX has changed how things were done and why that has opened up space travel in a whole new way that was just not possible up until a few years ago. Gravity pulls everything towards the center of the Earth. As a result, when astronauts have to travel to outer space, they need to travel in these large rocket ships. Now, the rocket ships are composed of two components. They're made up of the rocket, and then they're made up of the capsule. Now, the rocket in this case in today's launch is called the Falcon, and the capsule is called the Dragon, both of which were designed and produced by SpaceX independently. Now, the purpose of this rocket attached at the bottom is because the Earth's gravitational field does not go on forever. It only affects things that are within a certain distance from the surface of the Earth. Therefore, when the spaceship is launched, this rocket helps it get past that field of gravity. Now, once the rocket ship has gone past the field of gravity, the rocket ship essentially detaches itself from the capsule. Now, previously, whenever that capsule detached from the rocket ship, this rocket only had one option. They were designed in such a way that they would just fall back simply to Earth. Most of them would burn up because of friction and fire during re-entry. But if they didn't, they would fall into certain designated locations figured out by NASA, so it doesn't cause damage to local populations. Now, what SpaceX managed to do was to create a rocket that once it takes the capsule to outer space would be able to then fly itself back to Earth and then land itself on a unmanned drone ship. Because what you guys have to realize is these things are extremely dangerous rockets and they can explode at any time. So it would not be a good idea if, as they're trying to land the rocket, that the rocket ends up exploding and causing death and destruction. Therefore, these rockets land on these pads. And this is the revolutionary portion, that these rockets can be now reused. Now, what happens to the capsule? The capsule keeps traveling all the way to the International Space Station. The capsule itself has its own propulsion systems, and this propulsion system helps it get to the International Space Station and dock there. Now, how do they come back? Once the capsule reaches the International Space Station, remember, in outer space there is no gravity. This capsule has enough power in itself to be able to navigate its way back into the Earth's atmosphere. And what happens is that as it is approaching the Earth's atmosphere, gravity takes over, and then gravity will now pull itself back, or pull the capsule back towards the Earth's surface. But the capsule itself has its own propulsion system, and as a result of that, they are able to navigate to a certain degree, and best case scenario with that, they would have a splash landing in water. And if they have a splash landing in water, these devices are made in such a way that they can float in water for an extended period of time. And there are numerous amount of agencies all over the world that are like tracking the movement of these capsules, and the astronauts would be picked out by the proper officials, and that would be the happy ending. So basically, that's why today's launch was such a big deal, because now we get to reuse these rockets that cost a tremendous amount of money. We get to reuse these capsules that cost a tremendous amount of money. And every time we want to do a space launch, we don't have to have a brand new rocket, which was the case since man went to moon and forever up until now. Another reason why this is such a revolutionary trip is because in this case the Dragon is fully automated, that it's going to do all the work. Basically the computer and the software is going to navigate it so that it can successfully dock into the International Space Station. So there is the docking port here, and they have to follow certain pathways because obviously they don't want to crash into any of these secondary structures. So the computer is supposed to do all the work, but in case the computer doesn't work the way it's supposed to, they also have the option to manually override and dock into the space station itself. I hope this video was informative and that you learned something new.